All right. Hallelujah. Looks like we're ready to go here. All praises to the Most High. We say Todah, Todah Rabbah unto Abba, Yod He Ud He. Say Todah, Todah Rabbah unto Him, allowing us to see this day, another day He's given us. We can work this thing out. We can work it out before Him. We're good. We're good. Work this thing out before Him. We give Him praise, glory, and honor on today, as He's given us another day, and we're certainly thankful for what He has done, what He is doing, for His protection upon us, His protection that He keeps us each and every day. And this is perilous times that we're in, but it was prophesied that there will be some perilous times. Perilous times were coming, and but this is a time for Yasharel. This is a time for Yasharel. This is our, when you really look at it, and it's our day. But one thing you have to believe. Is that in the? I don't know what's going. We're good. Okay. One thing that we have to do today, you definitely have to believe. If you don't believe this, you're going to have a very hard time now, and it's going to get extremely difficult, if not impossible, for all unbelievers. Unbelievers are going to meet their fate. But those who believe and those who have faith, got to believe it first. Before faith even sets in, you have to believe it. The first thing you got to do is believe. And that's why he said in Isaiah 53:1, the first thing he says, who hath believed our report? That's the first thing that you have to do is believe. Do I believe this book? Do I believe the ruach of this book? And we have to understand that there is only one true ruach in this day, giving messages for his people. He's not leading his people in a smorgasbord, or I'm gonna give you multiple choice. He's not leading his people like that. He is speaking unto his people, and the ruach is waking up his people. And I would say, if he don't hurry up and wake you up, then you might not be Yasharel, or you might not be one of those that he is going to gather unto him. Now you have some people who are listening, and they might have heard his voice, but they don't believe it. And generally speaking, once you get something in you as a child, and that's all you know as a child growing up, it is extremely difficult to get that out. I mean, there's things that's been taught to us, those who were raised around the Roman religion. There's things that was taught to you. It's virtually impossible to get it out. And that's why he gave us the command that we're supposed to teach our children, even from the time that they are born. It says when you're walking in the way, when you're raising them up, and I mean, it's just a constant feeding and planting the seeds in our children. And when you look at our children today, and this is the blessed part of it, is if you can get it in your children today at this young age and teach them. It is so important to teach them. I had my grandson with me today, and we were talking about the commandments. And as we were sitting there at the table, and he started to sing one song. I'm going, man, he's singing it. He knows the words better than I do. Shalom, shalom to the Mishpacha, and he was just singing that song. I go ahead. And we were talking, but about the commandments and the fact that you can get it in a child at a young age is very, very important, because once you get it in them, it's going to be hard for just like us, especially those who grew up in the Roman religion. Oh, there's some stuff you can't. I don't care what you say. It ain't going to affect. There's some things that's embedded indelibly in our minds about what we believe. It doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter what happens in life. There's some things that you've got in you, some principles and things that you got in you. It's not going anywhere. And that's how we have to get it into our children as well. As I was coming here, on my way here, I was thinking in my mind, when we were children and we were growing up, we used to, talk about things that our grandparents, some of the things that they would teach us, and you know how it was. You would hear, man, that's an old, what do you call it, family tradition or folklore or something like that. I mean, you telling them old stories that grandpa and grandma taught you and everything. And sometimes we sit back and we go, I remember when grandpa said this and this is what he taught and everything. That is very critical, especially nowadays, because they are erasing a lot of history. They're trying to erase and eliminate a lot of history. And there's things that they're taking away. If we don't put it in our children, and time is not up for these other nations, give it another generation or two, and we're gonna be wiped out. You ain't gonna find us in history books. You ain't gonna find. They were indentured servants. They agreed to get paid. They exchanged land and their labor for food. They ate in the house. I mean, they're going to rewrite the whole thing. And if we're not teaching this and getting this in our children, and we're not preserving some of the books, you're not going to. It's going to be gone. It's going to be gone. But I just believe that when I know this is how close we are, because I do not think they're going to eliminate and wipe out our history, even though they're trying to do that. As I speak, they're trying to do it. In certain states around the country, they are trying to uproot and not teach history of this nation, because they said, we don't want our babies growing up looking at us like we were that bad and that evil. So they won't tell the story. And for most of us, we're several generations from our grandparents that would be able to tell us certain things about, sharecropping, and before they got into sharecropping and all that. Many of the children now, how many teenagers do you know now that knows anything about sharecropping, knows the history about sharecropping? I don't think none of the teenagers. And we barely got a little bit of that in school when I was growing up. But a lot of that is passed down through family stories. The sitting around talking to grandma and grandpa, y'all got it made now. I remember when. Oh, no, here he goes again. When grandpa would say that or grandma would say it, I remember when. And as young folks, here they got some long stories. And sometimes we say, Grandpa, I don't know, is that true? Is that, because sometimes they be telling us stories. It's like, did that really happen? But we used to hear a lot of those. That's almost gone. And when you talk about going into our books, you're not going to find it in our books. So it's very important that we push this down to the next generation, the generation after that, because I'm telling y'all, this thing, the way this thing is shaping up, this SA10, he knows, and we're going to go to Isaiah 60:1. He knows this. He knows this, and he is trying to wipe out and praise and thank the Most High. We ought to be thanking him every day that he has still got a people. I still got a remnant of people, and he's going to restore and renew, because that's what it says in his book. That's what he says in his book here, that he is going to do that. But we see in Isaiah 60 and verse number 1, and he says, arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Yod-Heh-Ud-Heh, the glory of Yah is risen upon thee. A very specific thee. Very specific, not the whole world. And we have to understand that it's not for the whole world. And if you don't like it, then you have to take it up with him. You just have to take it up with him when you meet your maker. I don't see why it's just you chose them. I don't understand it. I was told that it's for the whole world. And everybody that's outside, there is salvation for those who are outside. Their salvation is within his kingdom, within his people. That's where the salvation is. He says, arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Yah is risen upon thee. And so somebody might ask, well, who's thee? Who's the thee here? Now, this is prophecy. So you might be in the Roman religion, but that's not going to nullify this. It's not going to take away this. Just because you in the Roman religion and you believe that you're going to disappear one day and you're going to be up in the Shamaim and you ain't going to know nothing that goes on the earth, because you're going to be on the Shamaim and for I mean, I'm trying to go back to what we were told. But we were supposed to be in the Shamaim for like 7 years as a bride preparing herself. And we were going to be gone through the tribulation. We'll be up in the Shamaim for 7 years. We ain't even going to know what's going on down here on the earth. And that's what I was taught. You know, we're not going to know. You're not going to know what's going down here on the earth. You're going to be up in the Shamaim preparing for a wedding. And then the marriage stuff. So they don't, just because you believe that does not take away from this. It does not take away from this, because what does Shaul say in Romans, the second chapter or third chapter? He says, what if some does not believe? Shall their unbelief, Romans chapter 3, shall their unbelief make the faith of Yah without effect? So you might have some, Yah forbid. Yeah, because y'all know there's people who will tell you, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. What you teach, I don't believe that. And we can read it right out of the book. You can read it right out of the book, and they'll tell you, I don't believe that. That's not what we were taught. We weren't taught that. We were taught that we was going to disappear and go up in the Shamaim. A total misunderstanding and miscalculation when they read what Paul says in Thessalonians. They just misunderstood it, because what Paul was talking about was a gathering of his people that starts in Deuteronomy and goes through all the prophets, even up to our Messiah, when he talked about the gathering of his people. And that's just another way of Paul rendering it. And Paul talked about it. But they say that's totally separate and totally different. And there's no other. What do you have when you teach a doctrine? What do you got to have in order to teach a doctrine? You got to have at least 2 to 3 witnesses. At least 2 to 3 witnesses to teach a doctrine. And he tells us in Isaiah, the 29th chapter, he says it has to be precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. That's how you understand doctrine. So you cannot take one verse out of Thessalonians and build a doctrine. That's illegal. That's illegal to the Most High. It's illegal to the book, to the principles of this book. You got to have other witnesses. And we can go through a lot of witnesses on Thessalonians, on the gathering of his people. We can go through a lot of witnesses. Because he even talks about, when you look at that in Thessalonians, and it talks about, then we which are alive and remain, if you look at that word remain, that remain means left behind. You the ones that were here on earth. The ones who are here on earth, after all this goes down, the ones who were able to survive and remain. Let's just get that real quick, because there's just a misunderstanding in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse number, let's look at verse 16 and 17. And for Yahusha himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of Yah. And when we see this, and it talks about that trump, and it talks about that sound, the voice of the archangel with the trump. What it's saying is his voice of the archangel is going to sound like a trumpet. It's going to sound like a trumpet. And we see how in Revelations there's different trumpets that's going to sound. This trumpet, Yasharel is going to hear this trumpet. The whole world is not going to hear the trumpet, but Yasharel is going to hear this trumpet. And it talks about those who are deceased in the Mashiach will rise first. So we're talking about a resurrection, which when you go to Revelations and you look at the resurrections, there's different resurrections. This is one resurrection, but this is coming at the end. It's coming at the end of judgment on these nations. Then we which are alive and remain. Now, can we pull that word remain? Can we pull that down? It's G4035. G435. Is it up there? See it? G4035. Yeah, G430. Okay, you see that? It says from 4012 and from 30 or 3007. And what does it mean? To leave all around. To leave all around. That is passively, that means survive. You survived. Remain. That's what it's dealing with. It's not talking about folks filled up in a train station and all of a sudden the guy who's conducting the train, all of a sudden he's gone and all you see is some clothes and a hat sitting up there on the conductor hat on the steering wheel, or you're on a plane and then all of a sudden the pilots are gone and then you sitting next to somebody and all you see some clothes. That there's no truth to that at all. But that's what we believe. We believe that because we trusted men and women. We trusted them in the custodial care of this book to teach us and to feed us, because we know a Raha, and they call him pastor, they're to feed with knowledge and understanding. So we trusted them. But when you start to dig into what he's saying here and dig into the words and what it meant, wait a minute, that's not what it's saying. That's not what it's saying there. And then they like to go to, where's the other one they like to go to? Who knows where the other one they like to go to? Yeah, I mean that's death is going to be swallowed up in victory, and this mortal must put on immortality. But that's mainly dealing from the transition from from death back to life. From the resurrection, talking about all are going to those who are in the Mashiach is going to come back to life in the resurrection, because in order to inherit that kingdom, for us, in order for us to inherit that kingdom, we're going to have to put on a new body. We're going to have to put on. But usually when they use Thessalonians, what else do they use? Anybody? When they use Thessalonians, but they don't like to use that one. Yeah. But that's in 1 Corinthians 15, but that's mainly dealing with the resurrection. It's not going to be like osmosis. It's going to happen, boom, just like that, quickly, like a twinkling of an eye. This mortal must put on immortality, and it's not osmosis. It's going to happen quickly, and that's what 1 Corinthians 15 is dealing with. But Matthew 24, because they always like to use this one, and others like it. Matthew 24 and verse 36. Matthew 24, verse 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Abba only. That's what it says. But as the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And they like to use this one, right? For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came. Uh-oh. And what happened when the flood came? Took them all away. So who was taken away? It was all of those who were on the earth. All those who were wicked, they perished. They perished. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And so then they like to use this one. Then shall two be in the field. The one shall be taken and the other left. Two grinding at the mill. The one shall be taken and the other left. So when he talks about them being taken away, because that's what he says here in 39, right? And took them all away. And then you look at verse 40 and 41. According to 1 Thessalonians 4 and according to Noah, which ones got the eternal life? The ones that were left. You had in Thessalonians, it says they survived. These were the ones that were left. These were the ones that remained. The other ones, they were taken away. They were taken away. And then you have the parable, like you said, the parable of the tares and the wheat. And he plainly says, he takes the tares away first. So they all go together. The tares and the wheat, Noah, and this time here where he talks about one should be, but actually, when you start to, when you start to compare this with the other gospel where it's mentioned of this in Luke, well, we might as well go there. Luke chapter 17, because you know what we read in Matthew 24, right? So Luke 17, and let's start at verse number 26. And we're going to read down because you got to get a context here. And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Again, the ones who were taken away, The only ones who survived or remained was who? The righteous, which was who? In the day of Noah, and it even says the 8 were saved. So the ones who remained was Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. They're the ones that remained. Everybody else was taken away. But they want to tell us, you want to be snatched out of here. You want to be taken away. But they don't take all of the book into context. They just use one verse, which is in Thessalonians. But let's finish reading this. Because I'm telling you, Abba Yah does not want us to be ignorant. He doesn't want us to be ignorant. And he even told, Yahusha said, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me, which is all the Old Testament. So if any preacher, elder, what tells you don't have to read the Old Testament, you ought to tell them, no. Yahusha said, search the scriptures. Search, I got to get back in there. Search some scriptures. And so he says here, they did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built it. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from the Shamaim and destroyed them all. So you have to see the separation. Who survived Sodom and Gomorrah? Lot, his wife. Well, she came out of the city, but then she lost out. Because Yahusha even tells us, remember Lot's wife. Because she did what? She looked back. She looked back. And he gives us another parable. He says, anybody that puts their hands to the plow and looketh back, they're not fit for the kingdom. So they ain't no, I don't know. I'm got second guess. I'm going to start look. You look back, you might not make it. Might not make it. Because I heard somebody say, I thought it was comical. It's not comical, but I thought it was comical. But he says, yeah, I used to be a Hebrew Israelite, but I ain't one anymore. I'm going, what? How do you, that's like, yeah, I used to be a Negro, but I ain't a Negro no more. No, you was born a Negro, you're going to die a Negro. That's what you are. You can't. How can you say you was a certain race, then you ain't going to be that race anymore? I mean, I know they transplant men and women. They call them I know they do that, but I don't think you can change your race because it's in your genes. It's in your genes. All right. Likewise, also as it was in the days of Lot. Yeah, we read that. But the same day they were all destroyed. Even thus, this is verse number 30, even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he which shall be upon the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. So he says that, right? Remember Lot's wife, so we know what happened to her. And that's why I'm saying you can't. She probably, because, people speculate, she probably heard the cries and the screaming of people because, fire being rained down, folks, and you could smell it. And it was probably just so horrific. And she still had kids back there, and she probably just could not believe that, Yah would destroy. And so she looked back. That was it. So sometimes we think, I don't believe that's going to happen. I don't believe. I think he's a good God. He's, he ain't going to, why would he destroy sinners just because they're sinners? And yeah, God is love. So, he ain't going to destroy nobody. Well, you haven't read the book. You haven't read the book because he Not Moses, but Noah preached 125 years, they said, about 125 years, telling folks it's going to rain. And they said, man, it ain't never rain. What are you talking about? 125 years it's going to rain. It ain't never rain because the dew came up from the ground. The heavens didn't drop no rain, so they said that they never rained. Okay. So you have a lot of people, man, that ain't going to happen. That ain't never. God is love. He's good. He's going to save everybody. I even heard that before. He's going to save everybody. And I'm going, but that's not what the book says. So do I believe what somebody says, or do I believe what is written in the book? Well, for me, I'm going to believe what's written in the book. But you do have some people who they believe that. But you have a lot of people who are not descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, descendants of the 12 tribes. They'll believe anything, and they don't believe this book. And they do believe God is love. God ain't going to destroy nobody. God is going to save everybody. They do believe that because they want to be saved. They know, hey, man, I want to be saved, but we got to go by what's written in the book. In verse 33, whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it. And whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. So I know we have, you probably experienced some of them too, and you're going to see a lot of it as we see this thing unfold with the chaos that it used to be other nations. We call them third world nations and banana republics and overthrowing the government and all this stuff. You're going to see that coming. That's going to start roosting here. It's going to start happening here. It already has started, and we're going to see it get worse. We have 1 year of this administration. Look where we're at. You got 3 more to go. You got 3 more to go. And the tragedy is, you're starting to see a few men starting to stand up and say something. But the tragedy is nobody is standing up against him. Everybody's afraid of him. Everybody is afraid of this man. That if it wasn't for the what they're doing to him medically, this man would probably be dead. His health is not good at all. They're giving him drugs. They're doing all kinds of things to keep him alive, and people are afraid of him. He's going to die. Why are you afraid of another man that's going to die? Because Yahusha told us we shouldn't fear what man can do unto us. He might be able to destroy the body, but he can't destroy the soul. He says you ought to fear him that can destroy both body and soul in hell. That's who you ought to fear. And unless he can do that, which he can't, why do I fear him? Why I fear? But you got men and they fear this man. It's crazy. It's really crazy. But we have 1 year under this administration, so we got 3 more to go. And I don't know if y'all keep up with current events, but they're moving a lot of our military people off the bases over there in like Iraq and Qatar. I think that's how they say Qatar, because we have a military base there. Because Iran says if you attack us, we're going to rain missiles down on those bases. So everywhere where they got United States military bases over there, they're maneuvering now to try to get men off of those bases and stuff because they know that Iranian missiles can land there. They can land, and they said they would, so they're trying to get them off those bases. And as soon as this administration feel that they're clear to strike Iran, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And so we're going to be in a throwing missiles back and forth with Iran. Then this administration talking about they want Greenland. And he said he wants Iceland too. If I'm going to get green, I might as well get the ice. I'm going to get Greenland and Iceland. And he said, and so the Secretary of State, what he wants? He wants Cuba. He wants Cuba. And so they're talking about, well, Cuba, because all you got to do is tell Trump, I want Cuba. I want Venezuela. I want Mexico. All right, well, let's do it. I mean, we're living in some dangerous times, and I wouldn't want none of our sons and daughters in the military at all. Yes. Yeah, he wanted to make Canada the 51st state. The guy's not stable. I mean, he's not stable, really. He's not stable. And so, yeah, let's get a mic in case somebody's got some questions. People who are watching, they can't hear what you're saying. But he's just not stable, and we ought to recognize it. And I'm sure y'all heard about ICE and what they're doing across the nation and stuff. You didn't hear about that? Yeah. And there was another woman that was on her way to the doctor's office. She made the wrong turn. And when she found out that the street was blocked, she got scared. She wanted to turn around, and they wouldn't let her move her vehicle and pulled her out of the vehicle with the seat belt on. She was trying to hold on to that. They cut the seat belt, put her down on the ground, arrested her and everything. And she just after she realized she made the wrong turn, she was scared. And she panicked. And she wanted to get out of there. They said, no, you ain't leaving. I mean, I could see if somebody felt threatened, like, we're lying in wait. We see some ICE agents. We just waiting for, they're lying in wait. That's not how it was, So, I mean, we're living in some very dangerous times, and we have to realize, and I wouldn't want none of our sons and daughters, because it's going to be an all-out war. How do you know? Because Yahusha told us. He says there not only would there be rumors of wars, but there are going to be wars. And we're going to see how that finishes up, because there are going to be some wars. And then he goes in verse number 34, and they like to use this like they do in Matthew. That's why I said what we read in Matthew 24, I like to compare that to Luke 17, because he's giving you the same, and you have to see how this finishes up. I tell you, in that night, there shall be two in one bed. Now, it just says two in one. They put men in there. It doesn't say that in the text. It says two in one bed. The one shall be taken, the other left. Two shall be grinding together. See how they put men in one and women on the other? That's not what the text says. It says two shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken and the other one left. And when it talks about grinding together, it's mainly at the mill, when they're working at the mill and stuff, and they're grinding. But in the text, it doesn't give a gender. It just says two will be in the bed, one will be taken, two will be at the mill, one will be taken, the other one left. Two shall be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Now, notice what verse 37 says. Because it doesn't say this in Matthew. That's why you have to take what it says in Matthew along with Luke. You have to blend it together. You have to understand the context of it and get an understanding. And they answered and said unto him, where, Adonai? And he said unto them, wheresoever the body, thither will the eagles be gathered together. So he doesn't give you a straight answer. He just drops a clue. And then you have to figure out the clue on this. Because he does say in Revelation, Revelation 9, is it 19? Revelation 19, verse number 17. And it says, Revelation 19:17, and I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the great supper of Yod-Heh-Ud-Heh, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all free and bond, both small and great. This is where the eagles are going to be gathered together for that great feast. Yeah. That's another time. Yeah, this is another time. I don't think this is Armageddon. You know what? So we have to take this back. I think this is a part of Armageddon, because Armageddon is the last war that's going to be conducted on this present earth. Yeah. But what he's talking about here, this is what Yahusha was talking about, because they asked him, "Where are you taking them?" Notice now, the question was, "They shall be taken away." And they taught us, the Roman religion taught us, one will be and folks will be scared, sleeping in their bed at night. And if they get up and their spouse ain't there, "Oh, where you at? I come somewhere." I just got up early, went in the kitchen and sat down, had my coffee. I thought you was gone. And because that's how they taught us, Or you go to the store, you're out at the marketplace or something, and all of a sudden your spouse is not there, or a child or something, and you start, "I couldn't find you. I thought the rapture happened." But that's how they taught us. So that's what we thought. But when he says, "I'm taking you away," or "I'm going to take one away," you're going to that great feast. That's where you're going. You're going to that great feast, and all the fowls of heaven, they're going to be there, and they're going to gather and eat them up. That's where he's going to take them to, because he didn't answer it just right away. He just gave you a clue. So another one to confirm that, would be in Ezekiel. I think it's 39.
Isn't there a scripture somewhere that talks about the beasts and the birds eating people?
Yeah. So what he's talking about here is, let's go to Ezekiel 39 and verse number 17. So this is dealing with, you have to read chapter 38 along with this, but this is talking about Gog and Magog. And so when you start talking about Gog and Magog, you're talking about the last war, Gog and Magog. And it talks about in verse number 11, talks about the valley of Hamongog, which is the kings, I believe. And then, so verse number 17, this is what he's talking about when one will be taken, the other one left. This is what he's referring to. "And thou, son of man," because they asked him where they're going, whether the eagles are gathered together, right? "And thou, son of man, thus saith sovereign Yah, speak unto every feathered fowl and to every beast of the field, assemble yourselves and come and gather yourselves on every side to my sacrifice." So he's speaking to the fowls and the beasts, just like he says, where the eagles are gathered, that's where it's going to happen. "Assemble yourselves and come, gather yourselves on every side to my sacrifice, that I do sacrifice for you, even a great sacrifice upon the mountains of Yisrael, that ye may eat flesh and drink blood," the animals. "And ye shall eat the flesh of the mighty, and drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of rams, of lambs, and of goats, of bullocks, all of them fatlings of Bashan." Like Ott Parker says, it's just going to be a smorgasbord for the birds and feasts and animals. "And ye shall eat fat till ye be full, and drink blood till ye be drunken of my sacrifice, which I have sacrificed for you. Thus ye shall be filled at my table with horses and chariots, with mighty men, and with all men of war, saith sovereign Yahuwah." So this is what he's talking about when he says there's going to be a great gathering. He's going to snatch those away. There's going to be two. He's going to take one and leave the other. There's going to be two. He's going to take one and leave the other. Now, to get furthermore context on this, you have to read chapter 38 and into chapter 39. But this is dealing with down at the end, because what's going to happen is Gog and Magog and these other nations are going to get together and come after Yasharel. They're going to come after Yisrael. They're going to come after Yisrael, and they're going to see where they're at in their land. They're going to be in a city is known by the gate and the fence and the outside barrier. They're going to be in unfenced cities. They're going to see how well they're doing. They're going to be fair and sumptuously, because they're going to be in their kingdom that's going to be here on earth. This is where the millennial kingdom is going to be. And so all these nations, after, like Revelation says, he's going to bind them for 1,000 years, right? Then he's going to loose them. When he loose Satan and his angels, he's going to gather all the other nations that are there outside of Yasharel. He's going to gather all of them and going to bring them into war against Yasharel. And this is that last battle. But you have to read Ezekiel 38 into Ezekiel 39. So when you talk about the parables of, or the teachings of Yahusha, when he was speaking in Luke 17 and Matthew 24, you have to be able to pull in all the other Bible verses. You have to go. That's why we say you have to do precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. You go into the old and to the new, and you got to bring all this in, because Yahusha could have easily answered that question. He could have easily, but he says, hey, where the eagles are gathered together, that's where they're going to be. So he just, you go search it and find it out. Well, you have to go into the prophet and search and find it out. So this teaching that you're just going to disappear and be in the Shamaim, and the pilots on the plane are going to disappear, and you might see somebody sitting in front of you, and their clothes are going to be left there. That all of that is just theater. It's all theater. It's misleading. You're not going to disappear here. You're not going to say holla down here and lure you up in the Shamaim. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen like that, even though that's what they told us. And the reason why they did it, a misunderstanding of what Shaul said in 1 Thessalonians, the 4th chapter, verse 16 and 17. Just a total misunderstanding, because you have to take in all of it. Like it says here in, let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse number 1. 2 Corinthians 13:1, he says, this is the third time I am coming to you. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. So for every time that they use a scripture or verse, you got to have 2 or 3 witnesses in order to break that down, in order to get a doctrine, in order to understand it. That's what you have to do. You can't just take one. And they misled people all these years. So now, like it says in Isaiah, chapter 60, verse number 1, like it says here, he says, arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Yahuwah is risen upon thee. The glory from chapter 60 to 66 in Isaiah here, you're dealing with future prophecy. The things that are written in here has not happened from 60 to 66. Even when we get to chapter 63, because in chapter 63, they're going to say, who is this that cometh from Basra with dyed garments? Or who is this that cometh with dyed garments from Basra? We'll get there. But that hasn't happened yet. That happened because that's talking about our Messiah. And the reason why his garment is stained with blood, because he's going to come back. Everybody's not going to be happy to see him. Everybody's not going to be happy to see him. Because it even says when the Son of Man is revealed, all the tribes of the earth are going to mourn. And he's coming after certain kings or leaders in that day. And I believe his return is soon. So he's looking at some of these leaders today. He's looking at some of them and the ones who will be taking over these administrations. And he's going to go to battle with them. And the main reason why he's going to go to battle with them is how they treated his people. How they treated his people. He's going to go to battle with them. They were like we brought out in was it Zechariah, the first chapter? He says, I gave them to you because they had to suffer their punishment, but you furthered their affliction. You made it worse. You used their kids as gator bait. You took it to an extreme. You took it as a sport to put ropes on 4 ropes, one on each hand and one on each foot, and tied it to horses, and then told the horses to giddy up and just split and splatter and you use that as game. Some of the horrific things that they did to Yisrael when they had control over them. Yeah, they had to suffer their punishment, but what you did, yeah, you took it way too far, way too far. So they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay. But he says, the light is going to rise upon thee, which is talking about Yisrael, verse number 2. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yod-Heh-Ud-Heh shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. Notice now, he's not talking to nations. He's talking to thee, which is singular. Excuse me. We read in Ezra's, 2nd Ezra's, and we were reading in chapter 7, chapter 8, and it talks about how out of all these flowers he chose one. Out of all the trees he chose one vine. Out of all the cities he chose Zion. And he just starts to break it down, because out of all nations of people, he chose just one. Let's see. It might just be the way I'm holding it here. My batteries are getting low, though. I got one cell left. But let's see. It's 7:30. We got to hear him finish this real quick. Darkness, but Yod-Heh-Ud-Heh shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. This is going to happen. In the last days, it was prophesied, Yasharel will be revealed to the nations. The world is going to know who the true children of Yisrael are. They will be made manifest. It will be made manifest. Because it says we're going to come back here, but let's go to Romans chapter 8 and verse number 18 and 19. Romans 8, 18. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time is not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Because he says the light, remember we was reading that? The light is going to shine upon you. Then the Gentiles are going to come to your light. In verse number 19, for the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of Yah. Waiting for the manifestation of the sons of Yah. Need batteries? Yeah. Okay, how do I? Oh, no, I'm going to finish up here. Todah. All right. So they're waiting for the manifestation of the sons of Yah. And so Shaul knew about the prophecy. He knew about the prophecy because he was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He sat on the Sanhedrin. You couldn't sit on the Sanhedrin and not know Moses' teachings and the prophecy. I was shown the mystery because when you look at the Torah and the prophets, it's really strictly given to Yisrael. But when you look at Paul's or Shaul's teaching, he says they're grafting in Gentiles. There's going to be Gentiles that's going to be a part of that glory that rises upon Yisrael. There's going to be Gentiles. You're going to have those grafted in. And so he understood that because you have even nowadays, I mean, you have a lot of people who co-opted this, the custodians of the book, and they lied to the people and everything. But the Most High is going to square everything up. He's going to square everything up. And when a lot of, then you hear people say, well, what about our Messiah? What about, they call him Jesus. What about him? Didn't he just change the whole face of humanity? Didn't he change the whole direction of the world? And that's what a lot of people think. He was given to Yasharel first. He was given to Yasharel. He says, I've come unto my own, but my own received me not. But as many as have received me, to them I've given power to become my children. And then you read about in the parables how he prepared a marriage. He invited all of Yasharel was invited, but a lot of them says, I don't want to go. I got this to do. I got that to do. I ain't going. So what did he do? He said, go out to the highways, compel them, bring them in. And so he opened it up to Gentiles to be grafted in to Yasharel. Is the book written to? Yeah, it's written to Yasharel. But what they did when they took the Roman religion, they said the Roman religion is the chosen people. There's everybody that's in the Roman religion, they're the chosen ones. That's not true. That's not true, because he's never done away. We read that in the Shabbat. He says, I'm still married unto you, even though you went out and you played the harlot. What did he say? What did he tell them? In Jeremiah chapter 3, and verse number 14, what does he tell them? Even though you played the whore, the harlot, what did he tell them? No, Jeremiah, we was there on the Shabbat. Jeremiah 3:14. No, but what does he say? Turn, O backsliding children, for I am what? He wanted them to return unto him. Come on back to me, because I'm married unto you. Even though you did all that dirt, you did all that, you forsook me and everything. He says, come on back. Come on back home. And that's love. Yeah. Because he made a covenant with Israel. He made a covenant with them. Those were his people, his chosen ones. And so he says, come on back to me. I know what you did, but come on back to me. But a lot of them wouldn't, because he says out of all of them, only a remnant's going to return. Only a remnant's going to return. So back to Isaiah chapter 60 and verse number 3. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. He says, lift up thine eyes round about and see, all they gathered themselves together. They come to thee. Thy sons shall come from far, and thy daughters shall be nursed at thy side. This is what we have to understand, is just how important we are. And it's not, we have to be careful of our human nature, because our human nature will get puffed up with pride. Soon as you realize, oh, is that so? And then you get puffed up with pride. You have to be careful, because he says, I didn't choose you because you was mighty, because you look good. No, I didn't choose you because of none of that. He chose us because of the covenant that he made with his friend Abraham and his seed. And so whenever they got in trouble, they polluted themselves or whatever, he still said, come back to me, because Yah is he's not a covenant breaker. He is true to his covenant. And the covenant that he made with Yasharel is still in effect. So a lot of people will say, well, what about Jesus? What about Yahusha? What about Yeshua? What about him? And he did give us his son, because that's the only way we could get back to him. In order to get right with the Most High, once you broke the covenant, when you understand what a covenant is, and they had to cut the covenant and blood had to be shed, whoever broke that covenant, that's what has to happen to them. And it wasn't the Most High that broke that covenant, it was Yasharel. And since Yasharel could not save themselves, they could not save themselves. So what he did was, I'm going to give you my only begotten son. I'm going to give him for you. And so the blood that was shed was the blood of the testimony of Yahusha. It wasn't the new covenant comes later, but it was his testimony of who he is. This is the blood that was shed for us to redeem us. When you understand what a redemption is to bring back. Well, if you was never there, how could he never bring you back? You can't be redeemed if you were never there. To redeem us or to bring us back. And so he did that with his only begotten son because we couldn't save ourselves. So he gave us his only begotten son. And if we believe in him, we believe it, and we know that we got to go through him now. We have to go through his son to get back into right standing with the Most High Yah, to get back with him to where he can look at our sins being forgiven. It's not because of our life, but because of the life of Yahusha, because of his life and the blood that was shed. That's why you hear it said before, when Ab looks at us, we want him to see the blood of his son. Because that's where forgiveness is. It ain't nothing that we done. It's through the blood of his son. So he looks down and says, that's the blood of my son, you're forgiven. The blood of my son, you're forgiven. Because if you try to stand before the Most High without the blood of his son, you got sin and transgression on you. And there's no way you can reconcile with Abba without his son. You have to have an advocate. You cannot advocate to the Father by yourself. You can't do it. You got to have an advocate. And so that's who Yahusha is for us. He is that advocate to bring us back. You're going to have a lot of people that's going to miss out on this glory that he's talking about here. You're going to have a lot of people miss out on that because they don't believe in the Son. They don't believe in his Son. And you're going to have a lot of people that's going to miss out. Because if you reject his Son, there's no hope for you. That's why he says it's just going to be a remnant. Even though Yasharel, when you look at, because, now I'm trying to see, where did I read this? I read this, and I can't recall where I read it, but they said 60% of the Negro, and there's like 50 to 60 million Negroes in the land, and they said about 60% of them are direct descendants of the 12 tribes, about 60%. And I read that, and I probably should have copied or try to, get that source where I can go back to that source. But it says about 60% of the Negroes that's in the nation now are direct descendants of the 12 tribes. But if you talk about, that's just, and there's about 50 million here. Well, what's 60% of 50 million? What's 60% of 50 million? Yeah, so you figure about 30 million or somewhere around there are direct descendants of the 12 tribes, about 30 million just in this country. That's not counting, because he says you're going to be scattered to the four corners. So just in this country, you're talking about, if you try to lay your eyes on 30 million people, that's a lot of people. You try to lay your eyes on it, you'd have to get high up, get in a plane somewhere and look out and see 30 million. But that's just here. So when you go around the four corners, and that's why he says, even though Yasharel is as the sand of the sea, he says only a remnant is going to return. It's just going to be a remnant. So you're going to have a lot of those who are direct descendants of the 12 tribes that they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. How can you say that? Well, it says it in Isaiah chapter 10 and verse number 20. Let's look at verse 21 and 22. And it shall come to pass in that day, this is Isaiah 10, 20, 21, 22. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Yasharel, such as are escaped of the house of Jacob, notice they have to escape, shall no more, and remember he says, come out from among them, be ye separate, so you have to escape, shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon Yod-Heh-Ud-Heh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return, the remnant of Jacob unto the mighty El or El Shaddai. For though, now here's the verse I was quoting. For though thy people, Yisrael, be as the sand of the sea, a remnant of them shall return. So we think, so that must be, the ones who return must be all of Yasharel that Paul was talking about in the 11th chapter of Romans. Verse number 26, remember he says, and all Yisrael shall be saved. He says that in Romans 11:26. When he says all of Yisrael shall be saved, he must be talking about that remnant. It's got to be that remnant. Because he says, even though Yisrael is as the sand of the sea, remnant's coming back. Only a remnant's going to return. So if he don't save all of Yisrael, don't think he going to save other nations. Because this book is a covenant with Yisrael. He's going to judge those other nations. The only ones who are going to make it is Yisrael and those grafted in. Those are the ones that will be able to make it into the kingdom. That remnant and those who are grafted in will be able to make it into that kingdom. So you're going to have a lot of folks that's not going to make it. And it does say that Revelation does tell us there's going to be a lot of death. When those seals are open, those trumpets are sound, one of those seals, it says 2/3 of the earth's population is going to perish. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Yeah. So it's in order for us to return unto him, and that's why it takes his son, the blood of his son, to redeem us, because that's the part of the return. Is he's going to redeem us through the blood of his son. We're going to return to his commandments. We're going to return to his statutes and his ordinance. And you see that. You see it now. All of a sudden, Yasharel, the awakened ones, they start keeping the Sabbath. Notice that? More people now keeping the Sabbath. People keeping the feast days. People going back to Torah, reading the Torah. Those who have been born of the water and the Spirit, going back to Torah, going back to the feast days, going back to the Shabbat, because we have to return. That's that prophecy being fulfilled. We see the prophecy being fulfilled by those who are returning. And we know those who have been born again, what do they get to inherit? Get to inherit eternal life. That's what he says in when he says it in John 3 and 5, and he talks about those who are born of the water and spirit, they get to enter into the kingdom because you'll be able to enter in through eternal life. That's the only way that you can enter in. A couple more scriptures real quick, just to give my time, because we're not going to finish Isaiah 60. Because I want to go through Isaiah 6 all the way to the end, because those are future prophecies. 60 all the way through 66, and then in Ezra's, and kind of bring how this, because a lot of people want to know, how is this going to end up? How's this going to end up? Because it's written in the book, but a lot of it is coded, a lot of it is symbolic, and so, he has to unlock it. A lot of his parables, he has to unlock it to you. But we are at the beginning. We're at that time where a lot of things that's written in this book are happening. It's starting to happen already right in front of us. And if somebody don't believe it, I don't believe that. That's not, you pulled out of the Roman religion. You ain't a Christian. I don't believe that. Hey, it's okay. That's okay. I'd rather live with what is written, Have you been to the water? Yeah, I've been to the water. I've been to the water. I've been immersed. I've been immersed more than once. When I woke up, I got immersed in Yahusha. So I've been immersed. Have you been filled with the Spirit? Yes, I've been filled with the Spirit. Hallelujah. I know what I received when I received it. And it wasn't me. It wasn't nothing I practiced. I was too young to be practiced. I didn't know what I was practice what? Say this. It wasn't none of that. We was there, and the Ruach came in and took control. And so I know what I received. Now we got to return unto him. And it's taken some time. And really what it's taken, he had to bring out the teaching. Because it's the teaching now. I've been born again. So I don't have to go back. I've been to the water more than once because I wanted to get immersed in Yahushua's name. But once you've been immersed in his name, and I know there's some that says you can be immersed more than once. But for me, from my understanding, unless he opens up my understanding, from my understanding, once you get immersed in his name, and you have that forgiveness, his blood is applied, then I don't have to keep getting immersed. I don't have to keep every Shabbat, every feast days. I want to get immersed again. Well, didn't you get immersed last feast day? I want to do it again. And a lot of times we accommodate people, we'll immerse them again. But from my understanding, once you get immersed in his name, then that blood is applied. That blood is applied. And now it's through the Ruach, and you got a life to live, because there's several things that he says about entering into his kingdom. And real quick, I'm going to run through these real quick. Yahuchanan 3 and verse number 5. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of Yod-Heh Ud-Heh. You can't enter into that kingdom without that birth. You got to have water and spirit, that birth, to enter into the kingdom. Now, the kingdom, so we got that there. And then in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse number 9, know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Yod-Heh Ud-Heh? Unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Yod-Heh Ud-Heh. And the reason why you can't inherit it, he goes on to list these things, because in order to get into the kingdom, all of these things that he lists are things that brings about death. Fornicators, idolaters, adulterers, effeminate, abusers of themselves with mankind, thieves, covetous, drunkards, revelers, extortioners shall not inherit the kingdom of Yod-Heh Ud-Heh. Because why can't they inherit? Because those are things that brings about death. Those are things that brings about death. And in the kingdom of Yod-Heh Ud-Heh, there's no death. So you can't bring that with you. Because if you bring that with you, what's going to happen? You're going to die. Yeah, you can't bring that in, So you have to have, you can't carry that with you into the kingdom, because there's not going to be that in the kingdom. So that's why he's saying all these people that do this, you're not gonna inherit the kingdom, And so then let's look at verse number 20 in that same chapter. For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify Yod-Heh Ud-Heh in your body and in your Ruach, which are Yod-Heh Ud-Heh. So once he purchased you, and he didn't purchase you with silver and gold. He didn't buy you with silver and gold. He bought you with the blood of his son. Once he does that, then, your body belongs to him. So if you say he bought me with his blood, then that body don't belong to you. So why are you committing things that brings about death? It ain't even your body. Oh, I think that's what the book says. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and he talks about the resurrected body. And there's one verse that I'm trying to get because we don't have time to look at all of this. Because he talks about the mortal must put on immortality. Terrestrial must put on the celestial. Further down in 15, let's see. Yeah, 40. Starts at 40. Yeah. There are celestial bodies and terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial and the glory of the terrestrial is another. There's one glory of the sun, another glory of the moon, another glory of the stars, one star different from another in glory. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, it is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There's a natural body, there's a spiritual body. Is that the one? Verse number 50. Verse number 50, because we're talking about the kingdom of Yod-Heh, Ud-Heh. Verse number 50. Now this I say, brethren, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yod-Heh, Ud-Heh. Remember we talked about, Yahusha talked about it, right? You have to be born of the water and spirit in order to get in. And then, Shaul tells you these things won't get into the kingdom because those things bring about death. Notice what he says here. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yod-Heh, Ud-Heh. Neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. So since this flesh and blood could not inherit the kingdom, because this flesh and blood, especially if it's got sin on it, is going to die. It has shelf life. It's not going to make it. So it can't inherit something that is temporal, cannot inherit something that is eternal. And he brings that out the more that you read down here. He brings that out because he says, for this corrupt, in verse number 53, for this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. Because if you want to inherit the kingdom and get into the kingdom of Yod-Heh, Ud-Heh, you have to be immortal. You have to be immortal. And that's why, it's promised that we're going to have a different body, because we have, in this present flesh and blood, your flesh and blood that you have now, and we feel it. I think everybody in here now feels that flesh and blood. We feel that body. It is aging, and ain't nothing you can do about it. Ain't nothing you can do about it until you change. Once you make that change, mortal puts on immortality, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's what Job said, right? He said, all my appointed time, I'm going to wait till my change comes. And he knew he was going to go in the grave. And he had to wait. And he's been waiting a while. But you know what? Once you cross over into that other dimension, it ain't going to seem that long. Because when Job and them come back, They gonna come back, and it ain't gonna feel like thousands of years. Because when you go to sleep, you don't feel like you slept 8, 10 hours. When you get in that deep sleep and you wake up, man, what? No, wait a minute. I just went to sleep. Why are you waking me up? you know, and it doesn't seem that long. Yeah, man, you've been asleep 8 hours. And if you're really tired, man, you've been sleeping. You went to bed at 10 o'clock. You didn't get up till 10 o'clock. That's 12 hours. But a lot of times you don't. So it's the same when you go to other dimension. You won't. It doesn't seem that long. Once you come back to this one. But anyway, the mortal must put on immortality. All right. Any question, comments? So the glory is about to be risen on us. We're in the process. It is starting to happen in Isaiah chapter 60 and waking up his people and everything. It is starting to happen. And nobody can stop it. Unless you got more power than Yod Hey Ud Hey, you can't stop it. It's going to happen. Oh yeah, he's already. Well, he says my word has gone out of my mouth, and it's not going to return unto me void. It's going to accomplish everything he said. So this has come out of his mouth, and it's going to happen. And we see it. We can see what's going on. We're in perilous times. These are some troubling times, and everybody that's sitting on this supposedly city on the hill in the United States of America, and you guys got it made, you got the good life and everything. That's coming to an end. It's coming to an end. Some people have lived sumptuously all their life. Never had to worry about nothing. And then you had those who struggled from meal to meal, paycheck to paycheck, and had to give all their life to work on a job, take care of their family. You got other folks, they've been living the life of opulence, luxury, everything, silver spoon, all that. Some of us, we've come up the hard way, had to fight and scratch and kick for everything we got. Had to fight for all of this. But things are about to change. Things are going to change because that's what he said in his word. So we thank you for tuning in, being here with us, and spending a little time at the house of Yah. Say Todah Rabbah for each and every one of you. We'll be back on the Sabbath. We'll be back here. We always kick our Sabbath off sundown on Friday at 6 o'clock prayer. And then Zakinium prayer in the morning. And then we have prayer here to start our Shabbat service. We have prayer here. So we want to welcome everybody. Come on back and be with us. And we say shalom to everybody.